Hey, it's Trey K, and you're listening to Us and Them, the pandemic episode. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX, our show tells the stories about the things that divide us. And right now, it's a microscopic virus. This global public health crisis from the coronavirus is creating new divisions between us and them. Some are physical. The phrase social distancing is now routine. And there are divides in the workforce. Essential workers have to show up. Some people work from home while millions watch their jobs evaporate. Other divisions come by choice as families decide how many generations can live safely under the same roof during a stay-at-home order. Our government creates divisions with its responses. National, state, and local leaders make different choices. Schools close, and many governors ask people to stay at home to flatten the curve of COVID-19's spread. That's another divide, states that do and states that don't. Even our politics can determine what we believe about the virus and its spread. In early March, I left my home, which is about 2 hours north of New York City, and drove to Charleston, West Virginia. I do this trip about once a month. I stay at my mom's as home base in Charleston. I had several Us and Them interviews scheduled, and we were planning a live event. I arrived in West Virginia as word of the virus's spread was getting louder. I started to worry about my health, about my family, and I wondered how I would do my job. That's when I decided to document my reactions, my questions, and my fears. I just woke up this morning and my temperature was feeling a little bit hot. My throat felt not really sore, but I just felt like that it felt a little sore. And my glands kind of feel swollen. I don't know if it is something that is psychosomatic or whatever, having lived with this whole idea of a coronavirus, but I'm worried about being sick. Maybe it's the byproduct of both as a person in the world living with the specter of this virus, but as a journalist doing work. And what's more, as a journalist, not wanting to be a carrier or a vector, So this is scary. And I don't know exactly what to do about it or how to feel about it, but I'm here in the home of my mom, somebody who I love dearly. And the last thing that I want to do or that anybody would want us to do is to get her sick. I mean, she's over 80. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how it is that I'm feeling, maybe wondering if there are other people feeling similarly out there. We're keeping calm and carrying on. Anyway, I have a feeling this won't be the only time that I'm checking in. All right, more later. Okay, a few things. That was a few weeks ago, and after consulting with my doctor, I quickly started to feel better. I'm fine, but there are a lot of people questioning a cough or a sneeze like never before. These new realities have shaped this visit to my hometown. My mom and I are more separated than usual. I'm sticking to the basement, and bless her heart, my mom leaves me food at the top of the stairs. Just a couple of days before I did that first diary entry, I talked with an old high school friend, face to face. He was in town for a family funeral. Frank McDonough and I spent a couple of hours in his truck catching up, driving around town. At That point, in early March, West Virginia did not have even a single confirmed coronavirus case. It was the last state to get one. Things were a little strange, to be sure, but there were no stay-at-home orders yet. Social distancing was just getting started. Frank and I sat in the cab of his truck. He drove, and I held a microphone a couple of feet away.
So, I just want to point out that we're driving by our alma mater high school. Why did you drive me here?
Whenever I drive around aimlessly, for the most part, I always drive past the high school, and the junior high for that matter, and a lot of my old haunts. I pretty much have a regular pattern for when I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic and want to drive around the old stomping grounds.
Frank and I usually connect on social media. He has a different worldview than I do. He asked if we could get together while he was in town for his brother's funeral. That's when families were still having funerals. I wondered if the funeral and his family's grieving process would be derailed with worries about the coronavirus.
As I know my family, I suspect that we're not going to get anyone not come to the funeral because of this. I'm sure it would be different if we were in an area where there had been a number of diagnosed cases and perhaps it was becoming apparent that it was going to be running through the community.
Is your family talking about it? Are they washing their hands a lot? Is it on your family's mind during this time?
Well, I'll be honest, we've been spending a lot of time really trying to figure out what it is about toilet paper that is such a huge time suck for people who are trying to go out and spend hours driving from store to store to find some. I mean, when you think about the impact of something like this, where the possibility is it's going to kill people. It's not going to kill them for lack of toilet paper. It's going to kill them from not washing their hands, from not paying attention to public information, public health information.
Frank and I have our differences. He offers that for some people, a global health crisis is also political.
Well, inevitably, it seems that the political edge to this has sort of taken over, because now it's being tied as essentially a public health weapon to be used against the president.
I've read, not on my Facebook page only, but on others, where that they somehow feel like that the whole issue, that the way that it's being reported, the way it's being discussed, that really the whole thing is kind of out to get Trump.
The whole thing is not out to get Trump. I think that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, we have a pretty decent idea of where this originated, and I believe the public health people can chart pretty well how it has spread. You could knock me over with a feather if you were able to tie this actual outbreak of this particular flu to anything truly political.
Frank and I agree on that. And it's a time when coming together is tough. It's almost like our social distancing encourages us to divide our beliefs even more.
Well, we have been pulling back into our own little political worlds. I know people who have shut other people out of their lives simply because they had a left-leaning worldview, and a so-called friend also shared that worldview except for one particular tenet. And then the other person said, well, you don't see things the same way I do, and they cut them off. That's my fear, is if being conservative is a series of 20 check boxes, and you come up to me and you represent 19 of those, and then I make a judgment that you're not conservative enough to be my friend.
Because you didn't check the one box?
Correct.
All right, man, we've been talking for a long time, so let's bump elbows. Thanks a lot. Thanks for driving me around and talking a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
And guess what? We're still friends.
What is that?
And we're still friends.
We are still friends. Good to talk to you, Frank.
The next day, I went to Frank's brother's funeral. I wanted to pay my respects. And what Frank said was true. His family did show up. Lots of people were there. Initially, there was social distancing, but then people were hugging each other. I mean, of course they were. It's what we do with people we love. We want to comfort each other, especially during a funeral. That was early March. Now funerals are dangerous. In many states with stay-at-home orders, families are postponing them or creating virtual events through a video chat. My mom was really upset with me for going to the funeral. In fact, there's been a lot of tension between us. She's upset because I continue to do my work. We squabble and then reconcile. We take walks around the block.
Dutch? I do. Dutch does. Are those the ones you got?
A few days after the funeral, I took a walk with my mom, my sister Stacy, and my niece Cora. At this point, West Virginia still had very few coronavirus cases. My niece Cora had just come home from college in Florida. One of the big stories at the time was about all the spring breakers who were flooding Florida's beaches to party together. Throngs of students were not heeding the social distancing rules. So I asked Cora about it. We're all standing apart from each other, so it's a little hard to hear some of the recording.
Okay, if I ask a question to you and I say, is it cool that all the people are on the beaches in Florida having spring break? Do you say, yeah, sure, boomer? Or what?
I don't really give a
You don't give a
Would you be on the beach? Hell yeah, I was on the beach the whole time before I left.
But, I know, but it wasn't full blown then. Would you, if somebody told you to?
I don't consider, I'm fine. Even if I got it, it would be a pain in the ass, but I would be fine.
Well, they're saying
My mom interjects.
a lot of people younger are getting it and not doing very well. And you're exposing other people. You're a carrier. So you need to be mindful.
I think the whole thing's a scam. I think it's the media brainwashing us all. I think so. They're blowing it out of proportion.
Now, I want to say that my niece's reaction has evolved. She was just frustrated and upset. She gets how serious this is. And she understands that her grandma, who she calls Dutch, is scared. That walk showed me the way the coronavirus can divide families. Generations can see things differently. Despite the differences in how we see the world and this pandemic, we all agree to walk again. I mean, family is what matters.
Tomorrow, we can do this again?
Yeah, I'm down. Call me.
All right, bye.
Love you.
Love you, bye.
Love
All right,
you.
I'm going down to my lair.
The walk was good. It was time to connect. These moments are as close to normal as we can get under these circumstances. Walking with family, at least 6 feet apart. After our walk, I head down to the basement. I call it my lair. My mom makes me a cup of tea.
Do you like chamomile?
That's fine. Thanks, Mom.
So, it is the second morning. Every morning I get up and I watch the news and especially see like what's happening in New York City and thinking about all my friends who live there and my family who's north of there. It makes me really frightened. Just the news and everything that is being talked about is just amplifying everything. It's amplifying my fear, and I'm just I guess wanting to ratchet it down. So, all right, that's my check-in for right now. I'm gonna just get back into my work and maybe not watch the news so much because
I want to stay informed, but it's also causing anxiety.
We do have a breaking news alert, special coverage of West Virginia Governor Jim Justice providing an update on COVID-19. Let's go to the governor.
Later that night, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice delivers a statewide address.
Good evening, everyone.
The state had just 12 confirmed cases and no deaths at that point. But Governor Justice warned us what could happen if we didn't follow the social distancing rules in his state of emergency declaration. He said if we kept going out and getting together, we could end up like New York, which was quickly becoming the coronavirus epicenter of the country.
We can't really believe, if we're watching TV and watching closely, what's going on in New York. And I hate to alarm you in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but we've got to move, and we've got to move right now to save additional lives. You know, all the stars with New York showing us exactly what could happen are lining up. If we'll absolutely employ all these things that I am going to tell you of tonight, maybe we can prevent that from happening. But we've got to move, and we've got to move stronger than we already are right now. We know that there's been bingo halls open, and we know that there's gatherings really in an unsafe way, whether you're shopping at Walmart or you're standing outside of the Dollar General store. There's 60% of you that are really, really bearing down. And there's probably 40% of us that are still puzzled as to really what could be. We're really perplexed of really and truly, is this real? We're all perplexed. But this is the event of all of our lifetimes, like none other that we've ever seen.
Coming up, an us and them moment. Governor Justice moves to keep New Yorkers and others out of West Virginia.
Right now, we don't want you to come, and we want you to hear us. We don't want you to come across our borders.
And
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, though.
forging understanding, connection, and hope from my mom's basement, one conversation at a time.
Our civilization is kind of wrought with these pandemics, so they play a very crucial role in our history.
You know, spending a lot of time with my wife and daughter. We're getting to know each other again. We're setting up a schedule. We're getting more spiritually connected, doing all of the self-care things that you need to do to stay healthy and happy.
That's after this break. You're listening to Us and Them from West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX. This program is supported in part by the West Virginia Humanities Council and the CRC Foundation.
In difficult times, music gives us peace, brings us together, and helps heal us. It calms our nerves and brightens our days. That's why we're bringing you classic episodes of Mountain Stage on air and in our podcast. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find something that's familiar or brand new and feel the power of live music on our website, mountainstage.org.
Hey, Trey here, and you're listening to Us and Them. This episode, it's stories about the coronavirus that divide us. Now, here's an Us and Them story I never saw coming. I've been back in my home state of West Virginia since early March. I make this trip between my home north of New York City and my childhood home in the Mountain State at least once a month for work. But this time, I return as the outsider. I am them.
So, I heard from my sister yesterday. She sent me a text and said, I better be careful while out driving. And I was like, what are you telling me? And I called her back, and she told me in the governor's address that he basically was very concerned about people crossing the borders into the state of West Virginia, and that in particular, people who came from places like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Louisiana, and I think he even said China and Italy, that if they were coming into the state, that he was directing the state police to pull them over and ask them questions.
Now, we in West Virginia want to embrace all and have people come from all walks of life when this is over. But right now, we don't want you to come, and we want you to hear us. We don't want you to come across our borders. If you're coming primarily from New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut, and you're coming across our state lines, you have to be quarantined for 14 days. And absolutely, I expect our state police, and I'm directing them, that if there are folks that have come across state lines and they are not quarantined and everything, that some way, somehow, we've got to be able to get word to them that that's exactly what they've got to do.
I mean, on one hand, I'm not worried about that because I've been here in West Virginia for, long past the quarantine time. And quite frankly, I've spent most of that time down here in my mom's basement. But there are things that I need to do out in the community, and I've got a New York license plate, and I've already seen some messages on Facebook from just regular rank and file West Virginians who've actually addressed me saying, hey, we don't want you here coming to our state. This really feels kind of funny from a guy who has a show called Us and Them. I feel to my brethren West Virginians a little bit like a them. As I'm driving my car with its New York plates, if I get pulled over by the state troopers, I've actually talked to, my organization, West Virginia Public Broadcasting, and they provided me with a letter that I can show to the state trooper.
We are absolutely doing it in a good way today. But this monster can turn on us and turn on us in a bad way. And the reason this monster can turn bad is just as simple as this. We're an old state. And by old, I mean we're an elderly state, the most vulnerable of all. In addition to that, we've got a lot of people with chronic illnesses. This thing can get ugly and get ugly really fast. We're on top of it right now. We're trending the right way. Please stay the course. Please just stay the course. We're going to get through this.
Sobering words from a governor when so much has changed, including how our Us and Them team works. Even the topics we're covering. For a few days in early March, I did some in-person interviews. We were separated by a long boom pole that held a microphone. Now I do video chat interviews. The coronavirus defines things.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you though.
Oh, let me fix that.
Sure.
At least I think I can. Wait, oh, I see. I got to tilt my... Hi, how you do?
Hi.
With the world getting smaller every day, I wanted to know more about why a pandemic brings out fear and prejudice in some and the need to reach out and help from others. I found someone to help me sort through all of this.
My name is Damir Huremovic. I'm the director of psychiatry at North Shore University Hospital in Manhasset in Long Island, New York.
Dr. Huremovic is originally from Bosnia. He's studied and written about pandemics. And last year, he published a book called Psychiatry of Pandemics, a mental health response to infection outbreak. In the book, Dr. Huremovic talks about pandemics throughout history. Some of the names were new to me, for instance, the Athenian plague in 430 BC. But others are more familiar, the Black Death, the Spanish flu of 1918, and also HIV, SARS, Ebola, and Zika. Dr. Huramovich says pandemics have shaped our societies and cultures in significant ways.
Our civilization is kind of wrought with these pandemics. There was a whole procession of them. They came at regular intervals, and as soon as we were able to record history, we were basically recording these outbreaks and these pandemics. As a matter of fact, I would dare to say that the infectious outbreaks or pandemics are kind of bookends of human civilization, because all the major religious books talk about pandemics and outbreaks very early in the nascent stages of human societies, and they all have this eschatological point of view where the end of days and the end of the world will also be accompanied by these outbreaks. So they play a very crucial role in our history.
What are we seeing about this virus outbreak that shows you how people react to panic?
We are seeing, I think, what we used to see in the past, but at a much more accelerated, in a much more augmented way. So now you have, first of all, modern ways of travel, which means that, if it's in China today, it's going to be in Italy tomorrow, just like it happened. Mm-hmm. And also you have this pervasive presence of social media, which means that anyone can sound off on what is going on, and that also serves to kind of amplify certain points of view, certain emotions that resonate with people. So in terms of apprehension or fear or optimism or courage or despondence, all of that is going to be a display through this plethora of social media that we have available right now.
So in this book that you have written, is there some kind of general pattern that psychologists or social scientists have observed regarding people's personal or collective responses to pandemics?
I think there is something that we have identified, but that there is this, what we can call emotional epidemiology aspect, which kind of mirrors the onset of and the spread of the pandemic itself. People start, first of all, it's not on their radar. Then it's on their radar, but it's somewhere far away. Then they start thinking about it. Then they become preoccupied. Then it kind of hits home. And they, even if they have not experienced it firsthand, they are seeing the lockdowns, fewer people in the streets. There is this run on the stores. So they start being very anxious and almost terrified. And then as the pandemic or an outbreak subsides, they also tend to banish the thought of what was so anxiety-provoking and almost existentially threatening into the kind of netherworld of their memories. And most people basically tend to forget very, very quickly.
I'm wondering, how do you see people's loyalties? Do you feel like they shift when they're tested during a time like this?
They can, but most likely they kind of just become more convinced and hold on to their beliefs.
So if we're kind of in that us and them posture, or maybe even more of an us versus them posture, what does that do to our sense of social consciousness and shared responsibility that we all need to have?
It's a big test. And that is what I see as a major challenge for us going forward through the next couple of months. It's not really the disease itself. It's a very tricky disease because its epidemiological features are kind of just enough to pass it as a serious outbreak and a pandemic and so on and so forth. But in terms of mortality and everything else, it's nothing like the pandemics of the past. Yet, we are now imposing all these measures that may be drastic and in some aspects draconian that are going to have severe impact on our economy and our social fabric. And so that is where the challenge lies going ahead. It's how we are going to negotiate those threats to our social norms, social mores, certain level of civility. As I said, it's going to be very interesting going forward.
What do we know about the role hope plays in how people handle fear and anxiety?
Hope plays tremendous role. You always have to kind of navigate between being realistic with the facts, being careful and cautious, and then being kind of an optimist about how this is going to play out. Even during the Black Death and during the Spanish flu pandemic, vast majority of population survives. It's not like we're all going to get it and we're all going to die. We are not all going to get it, and vast majority of those who get it are not going to die. So there's absolutely reason for us to be and remain hopeful that this is kind of a blip on the radar, that we will be able to successfully negotiate and then learn from it so that we can be ready for the big one, because this one really shouldn't be the big one. This is really kind of a warning shot for us to get a better understanding.
I very much enjoyed this conversation, and I just am really grateful that you've taken your time to speak with me and kind of give us some insight as to what it is that we're going through.
Listen, it's been my pleasure. It boosts my self of social benefit, serving a socially useful role. And as I said, it's absolutely crucial for us to remain hopeful, because this is not half as bad as your worst fear may make it look or sound.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Every day, the news from New York is grim. For weeks, New York City has been the nation's hotspot for COVID-19 cases. For many, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has emerged as a voice of reason and of hope despite difficult circumstances.
This is disorienting, it's frightening, it's disturbing. Your whole life is turned upside down overnight. To the best you can, you find a way to create some joy. You try to find a silver lining in all of this. How do you break up the monotony? What do you do? How do you bring a smile to people's face?
Cuomo's coronavirus briefings offer a daily body count with pleas for help from the federal government, requests for respirators and masks and healthcare workers. There are also very human moments, folksy advice and tales of big Sunday dinners he remembers with his family growing up. I really miss New York and worry about the people I know there. I'm hearing from friends about people we know who are sick. It's a place I lived half my life. One of my last public outings in New York was to see a play at the Public Theater called Coal Country. It follows the stories of the families who lost loved ones in the Upper Big Branch coal mine disaster. The explosion happened 10 years ago in Raleigh County, West Virginia, and killed 29 miners. Coal Country abruptly closed just a few days after I saw it, along with every other theater production in New York City. The theaters closed because of escalating cases of coronavirus in the city. About a week later, Governor Cuomo's executive order effectively shut down the whole city.
I'm Jessica Blank, and I'm the co-writer and director of the play Coal Country, and I'm an actor, writer, and director for film, theater, and TV.
And I'm Eric Jensen. I'm happily married to Jessica Blank. I'm the co-writer of Coal Country.
Jessica and Eric live with their daughter in Brooklyn. We talked by phone, and they recorded themselves with their own professional equipment. I met Eric and Jessica about 16 years ago, and since I'm working on an Us and Them podcast about their play Coal Country, I had just interviewed them after I saw the performance. So a lot has changed since we last spoke. How are you guys doing?
I mean, we're okay, considering we're self-quarantined in our house, sheltering in place, however you want to put it, in our home in New York with our daughter. And considering, I think we're doing well. We're both healthy. We have enough food. We have enough cleaning products. Our kid is happy. We're able to continue much of our work in some adjusted form over the next couple of months. So all things considered, I think, we have a lot to be grateful for. It's a crazy time, obviously, for everyone. And it was definitely a shock and scary and hard to have all of the theaters in New York close so suddenly. And we're just in a pause right now, like much of the rest of the country.
After the shock of the show closed, especially after all the positive response that happened to it and stuff like that, after that wore off, I began to see in the show themes which are kind of happening right now, except on this like larger level,
right?
Having to do with the hubris of the person in power, a lack of concern apparently for the value of human life. I mean, these were themes of our play, and now all of a sudden the world is experiencing the same thing, just in slow motion. It's not an explosion, it's a slow explosion, and all of us are going to have grief about this. Everybody's going to know somebody who died, and it just is weird that we were writing about this little community that experienced all this grief from one disaster, and now we're one big little community who's going to experience a lot of grief from this disaster.
Grief and disaster are intertwined. Singer-songwriter Steve Earle wrote music for the play Coal Country. His soul-searching songs conjure up the heart of the story.
My daddy was a miner, my daddy's daddy too. Union Garden Country was all they ever knew. They worked from early morning till evening whistle blew. When you'd strike the mine and walk the line, 'cause that's just what you do when you're born in West Virginia, a miner through and through. Union Garden Country was all you ever knew. It was Union.
What's it like to be living in New York City right now? I mean, you say that you're practicing social distancing, et cetera, but what is it like right now?
It's difficult because when we're in crisis, I mean, we lived here on 9/11, and one of the ways, the most important way that the city as a collective dealt with the shock and grief of 9/11 was by gathering and by coming together. That's how we protected each other. That's how we kept each other safe. That's how we supported each other emotionally and pulled through as a city. So
we gathered in Washington Square Park and, did the same thing we did in Coal Country. We sang together. We sang We Shall Overcome.
And now it's really counterintuitive. It's like exactly the thing that we need to be doing to help each other through this is exactly the thing that we can't do in order to protect each other, right? So that's kind of tricky to wrap your brain around and feels pretty weird. The streets of New York City are pretty empty. We're following the strictest guidelines in terms of just safety and social distancing. So we go out for walks and runs alone, stay 6 feet away from other people. So we have been outside our house. We try to get out once a day. There are other folks doing the same, but not many. And when you're used to how crowded New York City is, it's pretty surreal.
But, I'm counting on the things. I'm getting on FaceTime with friends, spending a lot of time with my wife and daughter. We're getting to know each other again. We're setting up a schedule. We're getting more spiritually connected. We're doing all of the self-care things that you need to do to stay healthy and happy, and trying to stay connected to our arts community. So much of what we do is based on people collaborating and doing things together. And I think we miss each other terribly right now, and we miss that connection, and everybody's struggling with that.
Well, let me ask this. How long do you think that you can sustain it? And what if this is the new normal for an extended period of time?
So on a personal level, we'll be okay, right? And we're adapting our systems in the meantime to communicate with folks digitally, right? all of that. But in terms of how sustainable is this for how long, I think on a societal level, I think that's a really different question. And I think that is where our leadership absolutely has to step up. Our leadership has to step up so that people are not sucked in their houses for more than a matter of weeks, right? So that hospitals get the supplies they need, so that medical innovation is fast-tracked and we get a vaccine, we get treatments made widely available on a mass scale. These things are all possible.
I think at the end of all this, I think that our relationship to grief and government and each other is going to change. I really pray and hope that there's not a lot of unrest along the way brought about by this complete and total lack of preparation on the federal level.
If one thing can come out of this, one understanding can come out of this, I would like it to be a more widespread understanding that we are all actually interdependent. We are all actually dependent on each other for survival. No matter how much wealth, no matter how much power you have, if other people are not safe, you are not safe.
I have a fantasy. Can I let you in on it?
Okay, sure. Does it involve a helicopter?
Because after I was at your home, I saw all of Eric's guitars, and I'm thinking that one day I'm going to come visit you guys, and we're just going to play guitar. We can talk about all this in the past tense. What do you say?
Yes, that sounds fun.
That sounds great.
I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to learning some guitar stuff from you. I always learn from every new person that I play with.
At least once a day, I actually say out loud and reflect on how amazing it's going to feel to be able to be in human contact with people again once we're on the other side of this. We're having the best, most amazing party of all the people we love once we're on the other side of this, and we're hugging everybody at the door once that's safe to do again.
Yeah.
I'm there with you, Jessica Blank.
Right on, right on. Hey, listen, it was really good talking to you. Thanks for calling us back again, and let us know what you need, okay?
I just heard the door beep upstairs. That means somebody's coming into the house, and I think it's my sister coming in to wipe down surfaces here at my mom's place. Hey, so you're upstairs and you're wiping down the surfaces? So tell me, what have you done?
Well, I came into the house. I started by wiping down the front door and the doorknobs inside and out. I have latex-free gloves and Clorox wipes, and I am wiping all of the surfaces in our mom's kitchen, the counters, the sink, the stove, the microwave, the refrigerator.
That's most, I mean...
all surfaces.
I mean, I basically, since I've been, yesterday was like a day, like I just had like tons of work to do, and I didn't really... So I appreciate you taking the time to do that, to come in and help me with that.
No problem. I love you.
I love you too. And did you leave me food?
Yes, I left you a bag of food, some breakfast items by the door, and some health supplements, some vitamin C, some elderberry chewables, and with zinc, and I left you your own disinfecting wipes too, and some other little love you supplies. Maybe you'll find a love you note in there.
You're the best sister.
I try. Love you.
Love you too. All right, bye.
This small interaction with my sister Stacy feels really good. Human interactions in the age of coronavirus, by phone or video chat, remind me how important it is to connect with people. Maybe I took this all for granted before. I'm also glad when I can help someone with something. I got a Facebook message from one of my conservative friends. He was trying to help a woman here in West Virginia who's an unemployed traveling nurse. She wants to go to New York City to help work in the hospitals, and he wanted to know if I could help her find a place to stay. I posted something on Facebook and got an overwhelming response from people willing to help her. I'm still in my mom's basement. It's been almost 2 months now. Mom's 81, and we're both anxious to keep her healthy, so we keep our distance. It's been hard. Hard to feel like a real adult. She brings me a sandwich. I eat it, sterilize the plate, and then place it back at the top of the stairs. I wonder, when will I go back to my own apartment in New York? And I wonder if I would be okay at my own home, alone. I wonder about my son. He's working virtually from New York. We talk, but I worry. My uncle had a heart attack a couple weeks ago. They thought he'd need open heart surgery. The hospital wouldn't let his wife see him. My brother's a lawyer and managing partner of his firm. He's worried about the future of his business. He and I disagree on politics, but right now we're both anxious. And his daughter, my niece, is a senior in high school, and she probably won't have a graduation ceremony. She's an athlete who can't play any more games and can't do a campus visit for prospective colleges. And there's no senior prom. My extended family is pretty big. My sister Stacy organized a virtual campfire on a Zoom chat.
Oh. Hi, how's everybody?
Hey, Marion.
Hey, Stacy. How you doing?
Good to see you all.
It was chaotic with about 50 family members talking at the same time. It didn't go perfectly, but gathering around a fire is a family tradition for us. So why stop now?
All right, sweetie, you haven't left the house in quite a while, right?
Yeah. We went for a walk earlier today in town, so.
It's nice that we can all be together like this, which is certainly not something that they could do during the Spanish flu. So at least we have that.
There's so many cases in Athens right now.
Yeah.
Just like people coming back from spring break and stuff like that. Right. Yeah, no, 5 of my guy friends went to Miami and all of them came back and tested positive, so they had been on quarantine until like yesterday.
Last week they were like, we're testing someone in the office. We think they might have it. Luckily the person tested negative. But Matt, who fled here, who's staying at my house.
We are still forced apart, but maybe we can bridge this divide. Maybe we're all evolving towards something better. Civilization couldn't have survived this long without taking a hit.
Hey, Stacy.
Right?
Could you have could we just get everybody to give a roll call? Can we just hear who all's here and stuff like that, just so we can hear that?
Chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Ben.
At some point during this chaotic yet wonderful virtual campfire, all those squares on my computer screen showed me how our Appalachian family sprawls across the world. We're all over America. We even had cousins phone in from Europe just before their bedtime. It got me to thinking about how I felt on 9/11. In the hours after the World Trade Center attack, I was in my Brooklyn apartment. We stayed inside to keep from breathing all of the debris that was in the air. The phone rang constantly with family and friends checking in on me. They wanted to connect with someone at the epicenter of the chaos, to see if I was okay. Looking at the Zoom squares of my family connecting from all over the world, I realized this time we're all in this together. It's happening to the young people who've had their school year interrupted. It's happening to my aging relatives who are befuddled by the technology that lets them see their loved ones but doesn't allow for the hug we would all rather have. This experience teaches me that now we are all us. In some ways, we could drop the ampersand and the them from the title this time, because it's us who will find our way through this. And it's us who will hopefully learn some valuable lessons from this experience.
We're testing someone in the office.
I did his print screen. So
Hey,
Control
hey
V is what
guys.
I can do.
Maybe you should just call on everyone, Stacy, so we know when to talk.
Okay, that's a good idea, Kev. Let's go around and say where we are.
You've been listening to Us and Them. Our team for this episode is me, Trey Kay, Marisa Helms, and Kate Smith. Special thanks to my family for their support. And very special thanks to my mom, Kathy Kay, for her patience in supporting me during this time. Michael Lipton and Tristan Lozow wrote and performed the Us and Them show music. Lelena Price provides us with images for the web. The marvelous people at PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the West Virginia Humanities Council, and the CRC Foundation. Us and Them was originally developed with assistance from the mentorship program at AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio. We'll see you next time on Us and Them.
Our living room.
Yes,
Yeah.
toss around. I want to see. I've heard Craig has got really good decor going on over there.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.